Welcome to Be Tackling Learning. This is your front row preview for today's live learning session on Copilot Can Do More Than That, the IT Leader's Guide to Scaling Copilot Adoption, part of our Microsoft 365 Community Conference sponsor webinar series. We'll be live streaming across platforms for the next 20 minutes to give folks on social a taste of this learning experience, real insights, and practical strategies you can use right away. Afterward, the full session with live Q&A continues in the BTech Learning Center. Click the link in the comments to watch directly and join us so you don't miss a thing. All right, let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to be with you today to jump into the details on Copilot Can Do More Than That. We're so excited. Anne, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Chandler. We're really excited to be here today.
Anne and I, Anne represents Microsoft and the Global Skilling Program, and I represent BrainStorm and our Learning Experience Department. Together, we bring a significant amount of experience helping AI adoption become successful in real organizations. And we're so excited to have the opportunity to share more with you today. As we get started, always want to just hit off on a couple of quick logistical items. Yes, we are recording the session and we're excited to provide that to you following today's discussion. Additionally, Anne and I are here to help. That is our number one objective, is to help you be successful with Copilot and help your organization adopt Copilot to transformative levels. So as we go through today's session, I hope you're asking questions and providing comments. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end of our time together today, and we hope to get into your questions and answers. If it so happens that we have too many to get to today, we'd love to follow up and just be helpful. That's the goal, right? So, you know a little bit about us, and we're going to jump right into our topic today. The agenda is going to be pretty fast-paced. We're trying to cover a lot of ground. Initially, we're going to set kind of the stage, help us understand a little bit more what's going on and the mindset that we might need to have for successful Copilot adoption. Then we'll jump into scenarios. We will show you live Copilot capability that represents more than what you might be taking advantage of today. And then we'll follow that up with what's next. Where should we go next? And how should we be thinking about being more successful with Copilot? And then, as promised, we're going to get into a great Q&A session. So with that, Anne, let's jump in and get started, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're here today, we can assume maybe a couple of things. One is you're looking to do more with Copilot. Either individually, you're hoping to unlock more capability, but in addition to that, you're a leader, an influencer, someone that's guiding AI adoption in your organization, and you're looking to help lift the entire organization to more transformative benefits with Copilot. But the truth is, we get it. Change is hard. AI adoption can be complex and complicated at the same time. And many organizations are sort of in a similar place where there's some confusion, there's a little bit noise going on, some dust in the air, if you will. And many of us have come to an appreciation that there's some value still left on the table, and we're trying to figure out how to get it. And as you work with customers, I'm sure you're seeing much of the same stuff, right? How are customers feeling right now as they think about AI adoption?
Oh, Chandler, you hit it spot on. I mean, we're navigating a lot of things right now, right? This shift into AI is really making us think about new ways of working, new expectations, and it's not easy. And it feels a little messy and kind of uncertain at times when I talk to my customers in the industry. It's not a signal that they're behind. It's actually a signal that we're all in it and we're moving in the right direction. And this is a struggle that we see that comes with these major shifts of transformation, right? Yeah. I think the thing to remember is that, you're not alone. We're seeing this across every organization, across every industry, every sector. Teams learning, they're experimenting, and they're figuring out how to do it as they go. But the exciting thing is that we're seeing some progress, and we're excited to share that with you today. So I think the one thing we should probably be asking ourselves as we approach this as leaders is kind of, how do we take that next step? How do we move from these pockets of success to something that we can scale more with more intention and be more impactful for outcomes that really impact our business and really unlock the power of Copilot? So we're excited to get into it with you guys today.
Absolutely. And audience, you might only be alone if you think you've figured it all out, right? We're all working on this together, and the playbook is moving rapidly. But I guess our point, Anne, is that the playbook might need to be different as we're approaching AI adoption. What we're seeing is a lot of organizations are deploying licenses, they're sending out an email or two kind of thing. They're providing some training, but they're really not seeing the transformative benefits of Copilot. You'll hear me say the word transformative probably too many times. So get your bingo cards out, right? But we're really trying to get to a different level of what AI can do and how it can change the workforce. And we see people rolling out stuff and maybe just not quite getting there. And I think what we're thinking and what we've seen from our seats, Anne, is that we're maybe we don't have the right playbook or the right perspective yet, and that may be something that's holding us back. What do you think of that?
Oh, it's so true. This AI adoption transformation is one that is very different from a traditional product launch that we've kind of done traditionally, right? I think with AI adoption, it really comes down to the people in your organization first. We're not just deploying a tool, right? It's about building trust with your organization, the confidence and the belief in themselves that can really help them see why AI is important and how it's really going to help them in their day-to-day work. And that mindset shift really, really matters. I see organizations that are making progress are the ones that are really focusing on that growth mindset and curiosity. You'll hear me say a lot, keeping the human at the center of AI, which is super critical, and creating a culture where people are continuously learning, they're experimenting, they're sharing what worked. More importantly, sometimes they're sharing what didn't work, so other people can jump in and they can find solutions and collaborate together. So it's really exciting to see kind of the shift of mindset. I always kind of think about it as we've been changing the tire from the outside. You get the jack, you take off the tire, you put the new one on, you lower the car and you drive off. Now with AI, we're having to think about solving problems in new ways. Maybe we have to flip the car over and change the tire from the inside, from a diagonal jack and all these things. But at the end of the day, you still change the tire. But we're really being forced to think about solutions and collaboration in a new way, which is super exciting, but can also be a little bit challenging for folks. So creating that psychological safety for your organization to do that with that growth mindset shift is critical.
Yeah, I love we could spend 2 hours unpacking everything you just said, Anne, because it was just so good. But if I may, let me highlight just a couple of things that really stand out to me. One is you're not just deploying a tool.
Correct.
And what you're saying, Anne, is like we need mindset shifts. We need culture change. We need psychological safety. We need to put humans in the center of it because, to add on to your analogy of kind of changing a tire, let's stay in the vehicle realm, right? And to me, we've spent so much time at work trying to optimize work, and we've developed software solutions to make the car go faster, to get from our current location to the intended destination, to get from A to B. How do I make it faster? How do I iterate?
Yeah.
But the truth is with AI, we no longer have to take a car at all. We have a helicopter at our disposal. And that's where the transformative mindset shift really plays in. So, folks, as you're thinking about Copilot success and adoption success, what I think we want you to know more than anything is that the traditional playbook of deploying a technology, deploying a license to something, and getting people to use that license is simply just not as sufficient as we need it to be to achieve AI success. So just, in another way to look at it is just comparing, well, if I'm deploying a software tool and I'm deploying an AI tool, what differences does that look like? For me, the software tool game was always about conformity, not because we desired like everyone to look the same, it was that the software tool had a defined set of use cases, a defined set of functionality. That was just the limitation of software. AI is not bound by that. So where with software, we're pushing for conformity. With AI, we're almost pushing for divergence, people to run with it. Where can you take this? What can you accomplish now? And that example in and of itself for me illustrates why our process and our perspective, frankly, just needs to evolve in order to hit new levels of success, right?
1,000%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, as you mentioned, the biggest gap in AI adoption isn't about access or launching a product. It has to do a lot with that mindset shift. I mean, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said it very well. We're going from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture. And having that kind of leadership set the pace of that mindset shift, I think, is super, super critical. So 3 things I think you need to walk away with just for this slide is, first, treat it as a culture shift and a behavioral change, not a product launch, right? Second of all, we want to make sure we give people time and permission to experiment daily in their flow of work and to share what's working. Leaders as well, and share what didn't work and why this prompt maybe wasn't the best and why I had to keep iterating on it to make it better and grow. And third, I think it's really important to celebrate those wins, to create momentum in your organization. Adoption doesn't scale through instruction alone. It scales through those water cooler stories that we tell our peers and things that we get excited about when we find a solution that works. And that's really when it becomes real. So being able to kind of think about those things, I think, is really important. Again, it's just not a technology shift. It's also a cultural and a leadership shift. Creating that culture, the experimentation, and that shared momentum. Those are really the things I'm seeing helping to unlock value.
Oh, so good. So those 3 things again are, you need to approach this as a cultural shift.
Correct.
Not just a technology shift. You need to develop space for experimentation. That space and time is so important because, like we talked about, Anne, it's not a defined set of capabilities. It is about creativity in so many ways.
People need to feel the tool and see why it really makes their job easier. And that aha moment when they really understand how that tool is helping them with their job be more efficient and drive more impact, that's where everything changes.
Totally. And then that third one, of course, is developing more communication, more virality, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Make AI more viral because there's so much capability. People need to be talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, just
Teams chats, Viva Engage, your champions communities, highlight best practices, celebrate big wins, celebrate small wins. Just create that energy, that belief, that momentum across your organization.
It's so true. And there are wins. That's what's so important about this, is that so many people in the world right now are kind of stuck at what we could consider the AI status quo. Okay, yes, you're using AI as a better spell check, right? You're using AI as a better search engine. And those are big wins. I don't mean to minimize those.
No, yeah.
But there's so much more. And what we're seeing from the data is proving what we're suggesting. Microsoft research on frontier firms and frontier professionals, AKA champions, early adopters, trendsetters. 80% of them are doing work that they couldn't imagine doing last year, right? They're basically pushing the envelope in unprecedented ways. But unfortunately, not enough users are in that space yet, right? So we probably have a lot of people that are walking around thinking, AI can't do that. Copilot can't do that, And that's the myth, is that we walk around telling ourselves that, oh, I can't be helped, or there isn't another step here. But there absolutely is. And today we want to show you what that step might look like. So with that, let's jump into Copilot now. And as I do this, I want you to think about a couple of things. One is, are you using these types of tools personally? Because we got to walk the walk to talk the talk,
1,000%.
Sort of thing. And then on top of this, I like using these types of capabilities with Copilot as a litmus test for where my organization is at in our transformative abilities, right? I already mentioned one level of that litmus test is, are we using it as a better search tool? Are we using it as a better spell check? Okay, if we're doing that, good, level 1, right? But these capabilities that we're about to show you today, this represents higher order levels. And so with that, let's jump into Copilot. Okay.
Love it. Love it.
So, as I preface this, and Anne, you and I have talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Copilot can look a little bit different for everyone. That's okay because it's moving fast. So my version that I'm showing you today might be a little bit different than the one you have in your organization. That's okay because today our discussion is largely conceptual in nature. This isn't a training session. This is what's possible. What should I be thinking about, right? So as I go through, maybe some buttons, clicks are going to be a little different for you, or maybe you won't have, based on governance, everything I'm going to show for you. But I do hope that as you go through this, you walk away thinking, could my users do that? Is my organization in a place to take advantage of something like that, right? And we're going to move fast. Again, I'm not promising training here, so I'm going to skip some of the how-to along the way to just give you that idea. But nonetheless, I'm in the browser for Copilot, and I'm just in chat here today. And I've got a prompt all queued up for us. It's a pretty straightforward one, and I want it to brief me on my day. Maybe I'm heading to the office, and I want to know what meetings are coming my way. Now, this is a prompt maybe you and I have used lots of times.
Yeah.
But what is maybe missing here, and I'm going to go run this prompt, and it'll just, do its automagic stuff really quick, is the automation of AI. That's a step that users just aren't taking is, I'm getting AI to work for me. How can AI work for me without me doing the work a little bit, right? So I've done this prep work and written the prompt and done all that sort of stuff, and it starts to get to work. But what is often hiding is treasure behind the 3 little dots.
Those ellipses.
Anywhere in Microsoft, you see little dots, right, Anne?
We love the ellipses.
Yeah, it's the X on the treasure map. And the one thing I want you looking at is the concept of scheduled prompts. How do I set up something to work consistently for me? Now, you see, demo gods are slowing me down a little bit here, but I've already prepped this sort of prompt, and Copilot gives me this great prompt of the meetings I'm headed to today. Again, look for the X on the treasure map, look for the ellipses, hit the dots, and if you want this every morning, let's schedule it. So I'm going to go in here, I'm not meeting Sundays and Saturdays, and I don't want it. I want it at, 7 a.m. And then I pick how long I want it to run for, maybe just a couple of weeks first to see if I like it, whatever. And then just a reminder that when I set this up, instead of me going to Copilot to set it up, and frankly, you're probably in Copilot a lot, which is great. But at 7 a.m., I just get an email, and I can check that email on my phone when I'm on the train. And so I know what I'm heading to work for, right? And my AI assistant is now feeling more like an assistant. It's being proactive, and all I had to do was do it once, set it up, and run with it. So scheduled prompts is example number 1 of Copilot can do more. It can do more for you. Example number 2, let's go back to chat. And like I said, you might be using Copilot as a central point of gravity in your work. And I think that's appropriate. Just like the internet browser has had all this gravity in our work. We're using the browser a lot to get work done. Well, Copilot should be a part of that gravity, where I'm in Copilot a lot. And when you have a tool that has a lot of gravity, switching to other tools has cost, where it's like, oh, okay, I got to do that task. Let me go do that. That's called context switching. Well, Copilot can do more for you. And in this case, maybe I'm working through some stuff and I'm doing some stuff, and I want my AI assistant to work for me, be my Copilot. And in this example, I want to throw together a meeting with some peers. And if I had a human assistant, they would kind of understand my context, and I would turn to them and say, hey, go schedule a meeting with that guy named Chandler and Dallin and Anson, and I want 45 minutes, and here's the subject. You go do that. I'm going to keep working. Well, I can have Copilot do that same exact thing now. And why can it do that? It's because Copilot is integrated in my work IQ, which is my work data, my files, my connections, my relationships, my messages. It has that intelligence. And so what it's doing, it's going and saying, okay, who is Chandler? Who is Dallin? Who is Anson? Of course, I'm in a sample persona, so that's why I'm setting up a meeting with Chandler. But who are these people that Chandler works with? And what's their availability? Let me look at their calendars really quick. And the beauty of this as well, folks, is I hope you notice, is set it and forget it, right? Like, I'm going to set it on this task. I'm going to go work on something else. But usually when you're not demoing, right, it's snappy. That's just how
Yep.
this kind of sets up. You can see I've already gone ahead and done this task in preparation for our demo, and it found the right people, even though I didn't give last names, because it knows who I work with. And it's given me suggestions right here in Copilot. And I look through, I like what I see. I click send invite, and it takes care of that magic in Outlook and sends the invites and gets on the calendar, does all this sort of stuff. And I can push it farther. I can say, oh, you know what? Change the subject. Let's give it an agenda, add a meeting room. It's all in. Copilot can do more. Try it out. That's number 2. All right, for number 3, agents. On this left-hand side of the screen, you see this agent section in Copilot, and some of you have played with agents. Agents represents one of those big steps for an AI user, where you're tailoring an AI interaction, giving it context and training to support specific pieces of your work. You're creating these delegated, intelligent helpers. And Microsoft builds you a bunch of them out of the box. And 2 of the most notable, of course, are researcher and analyst. Here in researcher, there is some capability that I think too few people know about right now. And we've got to know it because it's just so powerful. Here, I'm going to have researcher dive into a particular item of study. And I've chosen what's the most important factor when prioritizing business initiatives. But of course, it's AI. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
The big difference here is I'm going to choose what model I want researcher to run. And talk about something, Anne, that people totally miss, right? Is what model are you using? And having autonomy over models is so important.
It's a game changer. Yeah.
Right. And in the Microsoft ecosystem, you have choice. I can choose ChatGPT models. I can choose Anthropic models. And here, just around the corner, I'm going to choose Microsoft models. And we'll see where this journey takes us. But here in researcher, Microsoft is bringing the power of multiple models together for me. And I'm going to run what's called Model Council, where the same prompt is going to go to ChatGPT, it's going to go to Claude, it's going to get answers, and it's going to bring it home. And I've prepared that same experience. I've gone through it already for us here. So you see researcher asked me some follow-up questions. Okay, well, I want to understand your question better. If AI is not asking you questions back, that's another step of wow, maybe I'm not providing enough information. Maybe I'm not using it as an assistant. But it asks me some clarifying questions. I give it those responses, and it goes and runs. And it takes just a minute or two. It goes and it gives me a response from GPT, and I can look and review this response and read it. It gives me a response from Claude. What did Claude figure out? And then perhaps the greatest magic here, folks, is that a third agent is part of the party. And we refer to this as the judge agent. And the judge hears both arguments and then compiles and synthesizes that here at the end and says, where did they agree? Where did they disagree? So in one prompt, I got 3 different experiences that allow me on one particular topic to have a really well-rounded view of what I want to learn more about or what I want to understand better. I can't think of maybe a better way to empower me to learn without me feeling like I have to do a significant amount of vetting, right? Because we all know AI, just like humans, humans are fallible. Guess what? Humans didn't build perfection with AI either, right? So you have to, have your wits about you. But I just love that I've got multiple AI agents keeping each other honest and helping me learn this sort of stuff all in one experience. Super powerful.
Super powerful. And I use researcher and analyst all the time, and they are a game changer as far as being able to get the information I need quickly and succinctly. Obviously, I always put my human eye on it after it produces things for me to ensure that it aligns with my approach. But they have really been impactful for me in my career and my job.
That's the impact we're looking for, right? Copilot can do more than the entry level. And,
1,000%.
And we can see more of that. So that's number 3. Let's go to number 4. And in fact, I'll start back here in researcher. In our app launcher, we've got this thing called notebooks. And no, I'm not talking about OneNote notebooks, which are powerful in their own right. I'm talking about Copilot notebooks.
Yeah.
And when I think about the best way for me to explain what I think about Copilot notebooks is that these are mini brains that I'm making. I'm using AI. I'm first providing source references, a bunch of files, website links, etc., to build the base of my brain. This example is on a product called the M400, which is a smartphone in this demo environment. So I've gone and grabbed all the M400 documents that I could find. And guess what? AI went out and found more of them and suggested them more. Talk about helpful,
Super
right?
cool. Yeah.
we don't have a scarcity of information around here, folks. And AI is going to help us try to pull that all together. And yes, it's helpful to like put stuff together, but I could do that in OneDrive. I could do that in SharePoint, right? The real power is that on top of this centralization of files, and by the way, I didn't move any files. They're all linked and live. So as they update wherever they're saved, Copilot Notebooks has the latest and greatest. And that's wonderful. But the real benefit here is that Copilot Notebooks adds this AI intelligence layer on top of this and is my second brain on the M400 product. So if I'm going to a meeting on M400, I can come over here to the right and ask questions like, oh, where are we at on this project? And what feature does this? And all that sort of stuff. Or out of the box, I can create learning materials to get up to speed on this project or see where we're at. So I can make an audio overview, maybe a 3-minute podcast update on this that I can listen to while I'm jogging, or a mind map, which is brand new and really cool. Let's see this. I've created a mind map on the M400 product. And if you're anything like me, you're looking at this and you're like, wow, I'm already getting an understanding for what this project is. There's, the feature set, the product story, the competitive comparison, and you can drill in and, what's the reinvented messaging? It gives me this. Oh, let's have AI explain this deeper for me.
I'm a visual person, so when I saw this come up, I was so excited.
Right?
Yeah.
There's just so much more capability here. And I hope you're starting to feel like, wow, maybe I haven't spent enough time here, because that's the truth. And as Anne, you mentioned, space and time are important to AI adoption, maybe more so than anything we've tried to learn before. Okay, last but absolutely not least, many of you probably heard the phrase that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Well, here's the magic, folks, and it's called Copilot Cowork. And Cowork differentiates itself from chat. You'll see I've ticked over to the Cowork tab here in Copilot. Differentiates itself from chat because chat, I'm prompting work from AI every step of the way. With Cowork, you give it the destination, it builds the step-by-step plan, and it executes multi-step plans on its own. So do you need a PowerPoint and a Word document? Well, it can do that in one go rather than you saying, make the Word document, now make the PowerPoint. And, I'm selling it short even with that description, right? So let's show you a little bit what that looks like. Let's take the example of I've been away on vacation. And hopefully you all have gotten some vacation time already recently. We love that. But coming back from work, we don't love as much because you're behind. So Cowork here, I've said, hey, I just got back. Go through my email, go through my Teams. I want you to help me understand, where's the urgency? What are the themes? What are we working on? And then just as one example of the extra magic here is I said, hey, if there's any messages that have any urgency, help me draft some responses so that I'm just that much faster at getting back to those groups. Mm-hmm. So I've gone ahead and run it. And it articulates its thought process along the way. On the right-hand side, it builds out its steps. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. And it does all this, again, so quickly.
It's crazy. This would have taken me hours to come back from vacation, the amount of email I get. And this did it in mere seconds.
I know, right? And so it's gone through and said, okay, I've taken an early look at it. Here's what's urgent. Here's some stuff you got to do this week, next week. Here's some themes. Here's your to-do list. And okay, yep, sure. I've drafted your replies. And guess what? I've put them in your email. So I come over here to my drafts folder and guess what? The emails are already ready for me to send. And I can tell Copilot, go ahead and send them.
Crazy.
Sure. But I like that it's hey, I'm not over eager here. I'm not going to do stuff you don't like. So let me lay it out at the first level. And are you good with this or not? kind of thing. So crazy, so powerful to be able to do stuff like that. And obviously, in just a short demo on a webinar, I just can't do something like this justice. But I hope that you've seen, as we've gone through these examples, and I'll kind of flip our way back to the PowerPoint here. I hope you have seen in a more tangible way that, yes, Copilot can do more than that. Whatever your perspective is on Copilot, it's probably not big enough. And as we think about driving AI adoption across the organization, I hope you feel the urgency that we feel to help more people take advantage of the truly transformative benefits that AI and specifically Microsoft 365 Copilot can offer your organization and your users. But of course, saying that is one thing, actually doing it is another thing. So Anne, as you've been helping organizations do it, make it to that next level, to shift their mindset as we introduced before, to kind of make this happen, what notes can you give us here?
Oh gosh, yeah. I think at Microsoft, one of our earliest lessons kind of as customer zero, and when we launched this to our community, was AI, as I mentioned earlier, we just can't approach this like a traditional product launch. We learned firsthand with our early Copilot rollout in our sales organization that we initially, of course, saw adoption spike, which is great, and then it kind of fell off a cliff. And that's when it becomes that the real value comes when AI is connected to how work actually happens. So we kind of went back to basics. We did ride-alongs with our sales reps and our sales organization, and we wanted to understand how they were spending their time, where AI could have really big impact in their flow of work. And that led to Microsoft developing a really cool sales chat based on our very own Judson Althoff, which is pretty amazing. And this incredible Judson chatbot really helps reps prepare for customer conversations with richer insights and broader organizational knowledge than we've ever had before, because it's tied on the back end to all of our systems of record. And what we learned in the experience was pretty simple. Study the work before you try to redesign it, understand what it is, and then involve people that are closest to it to help figure out where the solutions are. So when we were designing that work, we created that space for people to learn and to experiment. And we had things like in our engineering department, we had this program called Camp Air. And it's like an immersive AI boot camp kind of 2.5 week program that they did. And the first week, we brought a bunch of engineers together, a bunch of engineering teams. And we had them map out kind of their day-to-day work. And we asked them to rethink about how they want to operate with AI, leveraging these tools. And then the second week, we gave them the space to just do that experiment together. New ways of working, new ways of thinking, turning that car upside down, changing the tire from another direction, as you mentioned, taking a helicopter instead of a car. How are we going to solve these problems in new ways? And it really took a hold much faster. And what gives me the most optimism is that I'm seeing AI open up these possibilities that really didn't exist before. So it's not just about doing the same work, use AI, make it faster. It's about unlocking new capabilities, new solutions, new ways of working. And that's, to me, the really, really exciting part. So as I kind of now take a step back and I think about what it really boils down to, it's AI doesn't really remove the work for us, but it does shift the hard work into more judgment kind of decisions that the humans take, right? And the organizations that are really leaning into that, focusing on those human skills like mindset, curiosity, experimentation, and sharing that momentum, those are the ones that I'm really seeing unlock value.
That's so good. And folks, if you're learning anything along the way so far, I think it probably should be that the perspective, the mindset shift, and your approach to this effort needs to evolve. And I'll be straightforward. A lot of this feels maybe soft, right? Anne and I aren't saying like, oh, go turn this feature on. That's what you're missing. We'd all love that. Like, oh, where's the 100% adoption button in the admin portal, right? That feature doesn't exist. And why some of this feels softer per se is because it is cultural shift. It is perspective shift. It is about reshaping and rethinking work entirely. That's going to be different from one organization to the next. And so that can be challenging. That can be daunting. We get that. You are not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone because people like Microsoft and people like BrainStorm exist in the world, and your peer customers are struggling with some of the same challenges. Additionally, your employees are more interested in success than sometimes we give them credit for. Frankly, they're just busy. They're not lazy. They're not always against everything you're trying to accomplish. They're just busy. Okay. And what we need to work on is shaping the systems around them to help them become successful with AI. They want to do more with Copilot. Generally speaking, the data will back us up. We want to be more successful. Who doesn't? And if Copilot can do that, game on. But we need to shape how we approach this to help them be successful. Now, at BrainStorm, we use a framework to help guide our customers and support their evolution and journey through AI called Adopt. Now, Adopt helps us be more intentional about this type of change. And let me give you a brief overview of what we mean by that. So first and foremost, people need to know and desire what we have to offer. Maybe today we helped you develop a little bit more awareness and desire for Copilot or certain parts of Copilot as an example. But frankly, if I were to say any part of this journey is weak, it's probably the first steps. We just don't do enough to help people understand that a better way exists and that we can help them be successful. Driving awareness and desire is foundational to our ability to help people evolve and accomplish more. From there, at BrainStorm, we always have said, once someone knows why, they'll ask how, and it doesn't go the other way. And that's where orientation comes in. Now, this could be oversimplified to like, this is the learning motion. This is the training motion. But I'm going to reject that oversimplification for a moment and suggest that orientation is also just about context and relevancy. It's not about just shoving documents in front of people's faces and PowerPoint slides.
Right.
It's about understanding where they are, what they need to accomplish, and providing relevant learning and guidance to help them orient to what's possible and where they're at and what direction they're heading. From there, we're trying to move from knowledge, because it's one thing to know that Copilot Cowork exists. You all know Copilot Cowork exists now if you didn't know it before. But it's one thing to move from that level of orientation to then participation, to, okay, I'm going to go use it. I'm going to go try it. And then we would be remiss if we neglected the fact that people are apt to experiment and explore, but can struggle in integrating new technologies, new ways of working into their consistent workflow. And that's what we mean by transformation. Does your job look fundamentally different now that you have Copilot than it did before?
1,000%. I mean,
Right.
it is upside down compared to what my job was before in exciting new ways. And it's pushing me to keep learning and upskilling myself, which I love as well. And I think this adopt model is super critical as organizations think about how to approach some of these things we've been talking about with this AI transformation shift, with first aligning to those outcomes. What are organizations? You need to start by understanding what the end in mind is that you want to do. You're not just going to enable a tool, but you want to really understand, where does this actually improve the work and how does it get done? And then shifting into recognizing that it's not just about the skills, but it's about that mindset. So driving that desire, really focusing on reducing the fear with your organization with this new shift with AI, building that safety around how they approach it, creating a culture where people are really cool and comfortable with experimenting and sharing what they've learned. Those kind of dialogues are super critical. And then, shifting into, how they operationalize those things in the workflows.
Yep.
They connect AI directly into what they're doing in day to day, not just the meetings and the emails, but the planning, the execution, the customer interaction. So we're not just talking theoretical things here, like it's really embedded in the way people do their work and how they do their work. And then as we think about that experimentation, let's promote it. Let's talk about it. Let's give permission for people to try things daily And when that shift really clicks, and someone says, oh my gosh, this just made my job easier, let's make sure we shout it from the rooftops, because it's going to help peer-to-peer learning. It's going to help champions groups. It's incredible when leaders share those things as well. It's really systemic. And telling those stories and those wins, I think, is really incredible to intentionally drive that behavioral change. That's where we really see true adoption become real business impact.
That's so good. Adopt, folks, is not just some conceptual theory, right? I mean,
Correct.
putting something on a slide is cheap and easy to do. But I want to speak from personal experience that something like Adopt helps you yourself navigate the challenge that it is to drive successful adoption. This can help you structure your thoughts and activities to be more successful, okay? And to do that, you need more tools as part of this. So the first tool I want to highlight in particular is Microsoft's data tools associated with Copilot. Anne and her team over there have done some incredible things to empower you with intelligence on what people are doing with Microsoft 365 Copilot and the Copilot family. And with that intelligence, you can start to shape out, what does Adopt look like for us? How aware are people? How oriented are they? Are they participating? How many of these people are truly transformational? And I know, Anne, you use this kind of data a lot with your customers.
I sure do. Oh my gosh. So my customers really are focused on the retail consumer good vertical, but the team that I'm a part of works across every industry in technology. And, we have these incredible tools that help us measure these adoption rates. And that is a very key focus, right? Some incredible data and telemetry here that really helps us understand the adoption rates. But I think with AI, what we also have to consider is how people are changing their behaviors and the performance of what they're doing, in addition to those adoption rates. So as an example, I can speak to like Microsoft's journey, right? With our sales reps, we kind of did a study and we looked at those sales reps who were using the AI tools. We noticed that they had the highest revenue per sales rep versus those that weren't using them. And they correlated to also having the highest Thrive scores, which is Microsoft's internal lens of like employee engagement that kind of measures their happiness and their satisfaction with their job. And so we're starting to see and create more of a mapping in the work we're doing. We're looking at adoption, but we're also looking at behavioral changes. For example, are the sales reps, because they use AI, are they able to save time so they can spend more time with their customers and help them with their needs? Are they thinking about the new product changes in AI, and are they keeping pace with those new product changes so they can demo them for their customers, which is what we want them to do and be comfortable with. And we're all seeing that kind of translate kind of to win rates and increased revenue, and ultimately creating that mapping of how we see right now the adoption to the behaviors, and of course, eventually the business outcomes. It's been a real game changer in how we think about both doing our jobs and changing our jobs at the same time.
I think that's great, because this data from Microsoft, the admin portal, right?
Yes.
If you don't have access to this data, talk to your Microsoft 365 admin, talk to your Copilot admin to share some of this intelligence with you, because it's step one, right? In so many ways of where are we at? What do we want to accomplish? What do we want to do? And then, Anne, as you're talking about it, this helps us point us in a direction, and then we continue to build off that direction with go get more insights, go get more tools, and all that sort of stuff. Now, at BrainStorm, we believe in this so much that we've continued to build on top of what Microsoft already has got us started with. So BrainStorm is we are intent on empowering you to deliver successful change at the greatest amount of efficiency possible, right? There's just 100 million things you could do to drive adoption. How do we make that more simple and make it so that you can make it to home to your friends and family, in the evening type of thing? So a couple of core tenets I want you to walk away with is BrainStorm is augmenting the Microsoft data story by aggregating more data and more intelligence about user sentiment, what they're learning, what they're doing, what their use cases are, what's relevant to them, and allowing you to assess behavior change. Because that's what we're in it for, right? It's not just about clicking buttons. It's about transforming work and delivering greater value. On top of that intelligence layer, which should be the foundation of what we do, is the ability to action now on that intelligence. So as an example, let's say I've identified a group of users that aren't using Copilot in Teams and could, derive a great deal of value from it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the BrainStorm platform is built to allow you to use that intelligence and action on that with adaptive and responsive and relevant learning experiences. And then on top of that, and you mentioned it, every organization has lived this journey. You launch something, you get this big spike in activity, and then here comes the cliff,
Yeah.
right? That just people kind of go back to status quo. Well, we don't need any of that in our lives, right? And so reinforcement and follow-up is such a critical tenet of what we try to do. Because guess what? Not only is Copilot here now, it's going to keep evolving constantly. And we want to be able to empower you with the infrastructure that you need to execute on all of these changes and help people embrace and adopt over and again and more. We help you plan, we help you orchestrate your change initiatives. And if I may, let's just show you what this looks like briefly. I'm in the admin portal of the BrainStorm platform, and I have access to all of these pre-built, custom and intelligently designed learning experiences that I can mobilize for my users. But we want to talk about intelligence, right? Here's one of those learning experiences. And I, in order to save my life, right, a little bit, save my work-life balance, rather than having to constantly watch data, I can set up a trigger that says, well, okay, if they're a Microsoft 365 Copilot user, but they haven't used it within Teams, within the last 90 days, as an example,
Right.
well, then I want you to start this learning experience for them and reach out and say, hey, Copilot in Teams is awesome. And maybe you haven't used it. Let's go use it. Right.
Those triggers are a game changer. And that's one thing I know is proprietary with BrainStorm. And it is a real impactful piece of your technology.
Yeah, it's just the intelligence, right? We talked about Copilot automating my life, right? Well, we can do more of that in more places. And the BrainStorm platform is really dedicated to help you get high quality change experiences in front of your users more intelligently and more easily, right? So with that, I want to brag, right? I'm biased. I love what we do.
You're allowed.
I love that. But I do want to be
great numbers. These are fantastic numbers.
Yeah, in reality, which is it works. It really does. We've partnered with Microsoft in just a test case that we did earlier with 73 customers in 6 to 8 weeks, right? Think about it now. Before you're done with like back to school shopping here in North America, before you're done with back to school shopping, you could have 50% more active Copilot users. You could have more people using up more of your Copilot seats, as an example. Like, the proof is in the pudding here, and it's delicious. We've been able to do some amazing things together. We invite you to learn more. We want to help, genuinely. We want to help. If it's using BrainStorm, if it's not, we're here to help. So take advantage of a demo or a trial experience, or just frankly learn more. We are always sharing tips about adoption and using Copilot and doing more stuff. And the Microsoft Global Skilling team has this wide variety of great tools available to us as well to take advantage of. And we want to help you do more. And in speaking of helping you do more, let's move to Q&A now, because we want to make sure you're getting everything we can today to get you set in the right direction to help you accomplish more with Copilot. So with that, I'm going to hand it back off to the team, and let's start answering any questions that you might have been providing throughout our time together.
Awesome. Thank you, Chandler, for that. Well, let's look at our questions that we have. All right, so here's the first one. I like that there's more I can do here, but I'm concerned about token cost. How can we use advanced Copilot functions, but be responsible token users?
All right, well, and I'll provide a couple of thoughts there. Maybe you can add to it.
Yeah.
Token usage, just like the usage of any tool, is about communication. So when I started a company, I've got to sign the Internet Acceptable Use Policy, where the organization tells me kind of the do's and don'ts of using the internet. And nowadays we have AI acceptable use policies that includes the sort of do's and don'ts of AI usage. Now, I like to think of tokens like giving someone a company credit card, which we do, right? We don't give them to everyone, and perhaps tokens we're going to give to everyone. But we already know how to teach someone how to responsibly use the company credit card. Do the same thing with tokens, right? Teach them how you expect them to use it. Now, there are settings that allow you to set limits and kind of shield yourself from unexpected token usage and expense. And Microsoft's done an amazing job doing that. But I would say from a user perspective, have the conversation. Like, everyone's adults, right? Like, they know what a budget is. And we should be teaching them what AI budgeting looks like for your organization. And anything you'd add or edit to that?
No, I think the idea of the visual of thinking about it as a company resource, a company credit card is the right approach. And also how you set up your governance model is going to have key themes around who has access to those tokens and who isn't. At a simple level, Copilot usage and the expansion of it is based on tokens, which is a small piece of it, but the input you provide and the output Copilot generates, every interaction consumes those tokens. So costs can scale depending on what you're asking the AI to do. So back to having that strong governance model within your organizations and knowing who is able to create those things and who isn't, I think is really smart. And then for those that do have access, making sure you have those policies in place and the mindset of you're treating this as a company resource. Let's be smart with how we're using it.
And I would just add to that is that I'd be remiss to not suggest that teaching people how to use AI right
Correct. Yeah.
makes a big difference. So yeah, you're going to give someone a company credit card, but you also want to teach them on like clipping coupons and like finding deals, right? So the same thing applies to AI, which is you need to teach them how to use the right models for the right job and how to not provide too much context, which burns more tokens, and how to shape AI's output so that it's not providing superfluous information, which would burn more tokens and stuff like that. So yes, set up governance, set up your back-end infrastructure for cost protection, but then teach your users how to thrive within that structure. And if you don't, then you're missing opportunities to extend your budget farther. Ella, what's the next one?
Thanks, Chandler. Yeah, so what does work redesign mean? How do I present it as a topic? I can tackle with Copilot.
Right. Anne, what are your thoughts?
I think it feels abstract in a way because we frame it around the tool of the job to get done. So the idea of rolling out Copilot can kind of be abstract, right? Cut our report turnaround time in half. That is real. So if we anchor one workflow, one team, one outcome, and then name someone accountable to it, we can kind of test it in a simple way. If you can't name the task, the person, or what better looks like, then you're still in the abstract. So when I think about work redesign, I think you really need to think about kind of it in that framework. Chandler, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm responsible for our learning experience team at BrainStorm. My team creates and crafts based on data all these learning experiences to help change behavior. And one of the concepts that we lean on so heavily, and it is very simple, is backwards design, which is start with the end in mind. So
the Gretzky model, right?
yeah, absolutely. What do you want to accomplish? Don't start with, okay, I have to create TPS reports every Friday. How do I do that faster? Start with, what do those reports do for the value of our business? And that's where you redesign the work. Because then you start to think, oh, okay, those reports are meant to inform my executive team on where we're at on this thing and that thing or whatever. Okay, that being the case, is there an entirely better way to do that now that AI exists? And you might be, as long as you have some familiarity with the tools, you've built a strong foundation, I think you'll start to see more meaningful, transformative, redesign ideas start to pop up. We're like, oh, wait, hold on. Now that we have AI, we don't even need to make these reports. We just need to teach our executive team the right kind of prompting. And in fact, let's just make a prompt for them and then schedule the prompt. So it just runs for them every Friday, kind of thing. That's where the redesign happens, is when we think of the end in mind. But sometimes, and we'll just be honest with this, we get so focused on what my boss wants me to do,
right,
that we forget that we need to think about it bigger. So the conversations people should be having is absolutely with leadership about, hey, is this the right process anymore? And how do we shift it? So that's how I'd add to that one, maybe.
Yeah, and the last thing I would just add there is to your point, Chandler, instead of thinking just about how do I use AI in my job for this task, what parts of work should AI do? And also, where do humans add the most value? And how are we
Yeah.
going to encourage the growth of those critical thinking skills that are so important that we can't lose sight of?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So, how do we move from abstract Copilot initiatives to real work?
Well, I think adoption isn't just a single training event, right? We've talked about this during the hour. It's a behavioral change. So start with the willing. Start with those people who have this incredible passion for AI instinctively, and maybe not the whole org. So, like a champions group, and identify those that are super passionate about using the AI and the technology, who really have that growth mindset and who are willing to experiment. And make a few people, they'll be wildly successful, and show them the proof of their work to their peers. Have, town halls, have them show their peers what they're doing, what they've learned, have them help coach people and attach it to a habit that they already have. For example, you could give them a starting prompt. And if they're not starting at a blank page, that way they have a little bit something to anchor with. And then above all, leaders need to be able to also model it. So if the executive uses it in the room, the team will also follow. One of my customers, the chairman of the board, came into the boardroom for their quarterly board meeting. And this gentleman is 86 years young, and he had used Copilot to prepare for the board meeting. And the much younger members of the board sat around and were like, gosh, if Bob could do it, we better do it. So showing that leadership, I think, in the room is really, really fantastic.
Another way to say abstract is irrelevant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I avoid abstract Copilot initiatives? How do I avoid less than relevant Copilot initiatives? I think that's really what we often are trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Our old playbook of software adoption used to have this, like, well, yeah, just go out and say Teams is here and talk about all the great things about Teams and just do it. Well, saying AI is here, given that it can do an infinite number of tasks, is kind of like saying the sun rose this morning. And abstraction comes from a lack of relevancy. And we often become less relevant, or we do things that are not relevant because we're not backed by and informed by data. And that's why what we talked about with data is so important, to know where my users are at, what they're trying to accomplish, to understand, and you've said this multiple times today, to understand the business objectives. What do we do as a company? What does this team do? And connecting Copilot to that.
Correct.
Yes, it requires work. I'm sorry to be the one to add.
But it's really important work, and it's really work we should be doing anyway if we want to be good stewards of company resources and time.
Yeah. Well, the good news is Copilot Cowork is catching me up from my PTO, right? So I can spend my energy looking at data and using the analyst agent and researcher to do more, folks. Like, yes, be a little daunted, but then remember that you've got AI and you've got Microsoft and you've got BrainStorm, and then be excited, because you should be, that we can create relevant, targeted, meaningful Copilot adoption initiatives, because you have a toolkit now available to you that you wish you had when you deployed Skype for Business, right? Like, the toolkit is rich and it's robust, and it's becoming daily more informed about how to be successful with this thing called AI and Copilot adoption versus something else. So avoid the abstraction, avoid the non-relevant, use data, and use the toolkit that you have to deliver things that says, oh yeah, you're not using Copilot in Teams, but you should, because we also know that you work on the sales team and you're using Teams all the time to communicate with your peers in X team and Y team. We have that telemetry, and we have the tools to find answers quickly. And so believe and be excited about it.
Great. So how do I get users to actually pick up the tools and use them?
Well, I think, creating that excitement around it, having those change champions that can help really identify some great use cases for your company, and they can share how they're using it. I think where I've seen a lot of electricity happen with actually behavioral change is with a lot of my retail consumer good customers, where they're really, Microsoft and BrainStorm comes in, we do a lot of training, and then they're leveraging that to kind of create these communities within, and this peer-to-peer sharing and leadership to admin sharing, all different levels, sharing with all different levels, and kind of that excitement around how we're going through all this together, and replicating that on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, whatever makes sense for your organization, keeping avenues open of sharing those best practices, either with a water cooler chat or a Viva Engage, sharing training you took that was really impactful, telling other people they should do it, what you learned, how you're using what you learned into your daily work and how it's changing it and what the impact is for that project. Those are the kind of things I think are really, really helping with getting users to actually pick up the tools and use them when they hear confidence from other people and how it's impacted them. So tell the stories.
Yeah. When sometimes we'll often say things like, well, like, when BrainStorm and Microsoft come in to do training or do adoption, what we're really doing is helping you build a plan and then execute on developing awareness, building desire, executing orientation, driving participation, and then building systems that create transformation. We're using Adopt to do that. So when it's like, how do I get users to do Copilot? Well, yeah, that's the roadmap. Yeah, and so you have to first build awareness. You can't do something or use something that you don't know exists. You have to have awareness. And then you have to have desire, and that comes from relevancy. So abstract awareness campaigns will not create desire. They'll create awareness, but they won't create desire. And then from that desire, it's, okay, I need to now help you connect this. Because, yeah, you've seen co-work. You maybe got some, a tip or a use case or an idea, a spark of inspiration that is like, oh, yeah, maybe I should try it. But now you need more help to get that to the participation stage, and you've used it and things like that. So, yeah, there is a roadmap. Absolutely. And there's a tool set to go and execute on that. But be thinking in terms of Adopt can help you think of, oh, well, yeah, maybe they're not aware, or wow, how can I help them get greater desire to take the next step? And oh, do they need more orientation in order to be successful? Thinking in those terms can help you become more structured in what you should do versus being overwhelmed by like, well, how the heck do I do this? And how do I
change management framework of Adopt, I think, is a really, really great first step.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the questions that we have for today. Before we wrap, register for the Microsoft 365 Community Conference happening on May 4th through 6th in Las Vegas and save $500 with discount code A500. Check the link in the comment to register. Chandler and Ann, we really appreciate you taking the time, giving us a walkthrough on this such a vibrant discussion. And everyone, we really appreciate you as well. We hope you found today's session valuable and that you're walking away with something you can put into practice right away. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.